Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Knack. We've got more live tournament action coming at you. It is in the AGL March Invitational Tournament. We've got a $400 prize pool on the line. It is going to, and this is 4 nights of phenomenal play here, man. This is one day better than MLG. What can I say? But Wendy is on the line with me tonight. Wendy, how have you been, man?
I feel so silly. I definitely thought Perfect was Terran. He's Protoss. He's the Imbo race. I'm so sorry. I must look so silly right now. I definitely thought it was Terran for some reason. I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm feeling great, my friend. First PvT we saw tonight. We already saw a TvT, a TvZ. Now, this is one of my personal favorite matchups. I really like the dynamic. I love how aggressive it can be. And a map like Cloud Kingdom, lots of versatility available for both players.
Agreed. And one of the best things about this map is how easy it is to take the natural as well as potentially the third. Now, you got to be careful with the third, obviously, because it's kind of a little bit out of the way from the natural there, but it's still very defensible in many respects. And so I'm expecting to see a pretty long game here, a macro game, unless DDE gets very aggressive here. DDE, we've seen it in the past be very aggressive early game in his best-of-3 type matchups. So, I don't know, it's a good possibility. What are you thinking here, Wendy?
Yeah, it'll have to kind of depend on whether or not he takes his gas or decides to go for a one-rack expanding. Nope, there goes the gas right now. And it's going to be hard to tell. If he goes for a tech lab, it's obviously going to be a barracks place play. If he goes for that factory straight away, it will be a 1-1-1. And, you know, a lot of Terran players are favoring the 1-1-1 in certain maps. This particular one, actually a good decision because of how far away the mineral line is from that ramp. And the direction is because you'll be pushing the front with some tanks and some marines and then harassing the back with banshees, really forcing the Protoss to split his units. And that's when he is weakest. Right. That is the most vulnerable aspect of the Protoss player. Now, I have a question for you. As a Protoss player yourself, do you think that, how would you respond to a 1-1-1? What do you feel like is the best response on this map specifically because of that dynamic of a really far away choke in the natural to that really far away mineral line in the back?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that, you know, these Protoss players are looking for, and I myself, is you want to try and scout that 1-1-1 type play as early as possible. As soon as you scout it, there's a couple different responses that you can have. One is to toss down your 4 gates and a robo and go for some drop play of your own and or 3 gates and a robo, or you can just take an expansion. Those tend to be your best, your best responses immediately to that play, and then obviously it comes down to just keeping an eye on your opponent and noticing when they're coming out. And there's some things that you can do to put on counter pressure. A great thing that you see a lot of guys doing these days is they wait for their opponent who's 1-1-1ing to start to push out, and they have a forward pylon, and they warp in and try and force their opponent to fall back and defend at their ramp or something like that. And I love that type of play coming out of these Protoss players these days, and Perfect is one of these guys that's capable of just about anything like that. So, but he's got his bunker going down here, DDE I should say, and he's going to have a great defensive posture.
Oh.
Notice that he did open with his factory, and Tech Lab's going down as well as your starport, Wendy, so it's 1-1-1.
This is pretty smart too. He's putting that bunker, faking the racks, the gasless expand. So smart. I love it when players start to metagame like this. The Stalker's going to come up, see the bunker, like, well, I can't get past that. Meaning that now the Protoss player has 2 choices. He has to either go for that robotics facility, get out the observer, or he has to play a really, really conservative game, or maybe even sacrifice a zealot to get up there and get that scout. He has to make a decision. He has to make it soon, because if he's not confident that that player is going for the expand, I would feel a little nervous. I mean, it's hard to read certain players.
Yeah, and DDE, I mean, like you say, a metagamer in just about every right. And you can see that Perfect putting together a lot of sentries here. He is going to deny the scout, but he is getting down 2 more gateways, so I'm loving this from him. And that's exactly what he needs here against a 1-1-1 is, number one, that he's got his expansion going down. He's going to have a relatively strong economy, and that does give him something to sack as his opponent tries to push forward, which I think is really what he's going to end up needing. But notice that he has not gone back in for the scout. And like you said, Wendy, I like to see players push forward with a zealot and a stalker and try and get the stalker past the bunker. So you let the zealot tank the damage from the bunker while the stalker pushes past. Got to get the scout out, and we haven't seen that from Perfect. So either he's guessing at it at this point, or he's just going to play this blind and hope that sentries are going to be enough. And I'll be honest, I'm a little bit skeptical as to whether that's the right choice here with just a bunch of sentries. But Robotics Bay going down, or Facility rather, going down here, and that's going to mean that he can start to produce, number one, his Observer, so he can get out a better scout here. And number two, he's going to be able to also, you know, start to put together some Immortals. And Immortals
that's what he's going to really need.
Yeah, they're going to be the great counter here to his opponent's tank play here. And here comes your first Banshee, though. We got to check this out. He is going to cruise right to the back of the mirror line. Notice that Perfect is slightly out of position to deal with DDE's Banshee here, and the Banshee picking up a couple kills already. Here comes those units for defense. He's warping in a couple more Stalkers close by. Notice there is no cloak out on the field, so he is going to be able to deal with this Banshee with not too much trouble. Probably going to see him start to split his army, but I'll tell you, it is time for him to get that scout out. You can see the Observer popping right now. Probably going to send this guy out across the map immediately.
And this is such a smart build from DDE. I'm sure you watch this happen time and time again against some players like Hart, especially against Protoss players like Huck. He's gonna do this all in. You should have one more racks with this. Maybe this is a variation that leaves you some kind of versatility to macro out of, but usually it's a reactor, 2 barracks, and then a couple Banshees are put out, and a siege tank as you can afford them. Right. And you push so hard around the 10 minute 30 second mark. 3 siege tanks are so difficult for Protoss to break at this point in time. The only real true answer to deal with this adequately is Colossi, because those Marines protect those siege tanks so well from any kind of Stalkers. If Blink were out, they could blink in, but Immortals are the only true answers. But guess what? Hard counters Immortals, Marines.
Right.
It's a really tough composition.
Well, and look at this. 3 tanks here in this push. He's already got these Banshees in play here. Doing a great job harassing this. He's got these, you know, the Observer here to try and keep these guys at bay, scouting that high ground. And, both of the Banshees go down. Now, that's a great pick here for Perfect. This might even be enough to force DDE back. But here comes your siege tanks. They're going to siege up right away. Notice that Perfect backing out, so he's forcing his opponent to have to kite forward here. Sieging up there is exactly what Perfect wants, to keep these guys at bay long enough. But triple tank blasts on those guys.
You can see how much damage it does. It took all the Zealots down to less than half HP in one shot. Yep. Observer actually getting picked off. Those 2 big Banshee pickoffs, like you said, were pretty huge. It's going to really dissipate the DPS of this army. And now Perfect seeing the moment of that unsiege, knowing that's the time to go, and that's the big moment for Protoss to go. That's why Protoss needs vision, so desperately in this kind of push, because he needs to see when those tanks unsiege. And already a bunker going down, but is canceled by DDE. Smart decision there to kind of force the decision out of Protoss. Immortal going in right away. You can see how quick he gets picked off from those Marines. They just deal damage so quickly. Perfect going for it, realizing he only really has 1 shot, and then everything dissolving so quickly to the siege tank lines. 3 siege tanks Marine, as well as 2 Banshees, and that's going to be the heart of DPS. Right. Marines are just kind of like that icing on the cake, man. They're there to buffer damage and deal tons of it.
Right. Now, DDE really going for, you know, that complexity heart play here, and it paid off big time, man, in game number 1. Perfect bailing that one. He's ready for game 2. So we'll be headed that way here in just a moment. We'll catch you guys in just a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Game number 2 here between Perfect and DDE. Coming at you on GSL's Daybreak. Wendy joining me. How are you doing, Wendy?
I'm doing great, my friend. I'm so sorry I couldn't kick those 2 guys, but I will take care of that.
That is no problem. We've got spectators who will be remanded to the live stream. I tried to say it, but I didn't get it in quite fast enough. But here it is, game number 2. Perfect going to be trying to make his comeback in this best of 3. You can see him doing some good old mineral stacking. Super helpful. And DDE kicking it down here as Blue Terran in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, Perfect did choose the map, and as Wendy was actually mentioning, that he likes this map choice for Perfect. So tell us a little bit about why you think this is a good choice for a Protoss in a PvT here.
It's really difficult to get off that 1-1-1 all-in that DDE just did. Don't get me wrong, it's not impossible, but just because you have that wider berth in the area, you can kind of see how Cloud Kingdom has a much smaller path leading into the natural from that ramp with those destructible rocks, right, and that third. So it's a little bit easier for Protoss to kind of negotiate what the Terran is doing, and plus you have more time to scout that it's coming with the watchtower locations as well. So And as perfect, it's a bigger map too, so you could even go for more macro-intensive builds a little bit safely. I wouldn't be surprised if DDE even went for a more macro-based play himself. Although I kind of think he caught perfect off tilt since he just did kind of leave the game. There was no GG, which I think is a pretty big tell on the kind of mindset that perfect is in right now.
Yeah, I mean it's a frustrating thing to try and hold off. We saw it be extremely effective in MLG last week, where Complexity Heart taking out Huck with this type of play. I mean, there's a lot of people who really did some serious damage to Protoss players in that tournament with this all-in type of play. And I'll tell you, it's so strong, but when it comes down to it, it's very beatable. It just requires good scouting, and that's one thing that was, I think, lacking in game number 1 there for Perfect was he just didn't scout enough early game.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what's going to happen in response to that game for Perfect. He got in there, saw the scout, saw that a gas. I believe he saw that the gas was down. Yes, he saw the gas. I don't think he checked the timing of it, although not entirely crucial. Marine has come out, and it looks like reactor going down. Maybe a 2-racks play. This is indicative of a 2-racks based build where you get that reactor first, then throw down another barracks with a tech lab and start to go for
couple Marauders.
A couple of Marauders with slow, and maybe followed up, depending on what your next step is, combat shield or stim. If you're maybe going for a 2-base timing push, you'll get stim early, put on a little pressure. Once combat shield finishes and you have medevacs out, which will be about the same time, go for that big all-in push. Or alternatively, maybe get combat shield, and then, there goes the expansion. So, interesting. I've never really seen a reactor-based expansion build. Maybe this is DDE's, something he's cooked up himself. Probably we'll see a lot of... he's even pulled guys off gas.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so he's going to go very heavy Marine here, which means he is going for an economic play.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. It will be economic based, but there is some, I guess the best way to, as Artosis has coined the term, powering builds, where after you get the expansion up, you throw down 3 or 4 additional racks and you just flood Marines while getting up stim in 1-1. You use all that gas into putting into upgrades for that infantry, and then you start throwing down tech labs on all those Marines, or on those barracks, and just go Marauders nonstop while getting medevacs, and it produces this really robust, well upgraded bio ball that allows you to put on pressure in the early to mid game while having a very deafening blow to it. So it could be a really smart play at a DDE to do that sort of thing. And never mind, that's a second command center, my friend.
Oh, wow, you are correct, my friend. It is 3rd base coming out of DDE, so definitely heavy macro play here, which means he is going to do just about everything he wants. Now, like you said, that if you're going for the macro play, it generally means that we're going to see hefty upgrades. I'm surprised that he's not starting them quite yet, but you can see him putting down his second gas, and I assume we're going to start to see his engineering base and such go down here pretty dang fast.
Yep, has started up gas just like you said. Meanwhile, back in perfect space, going for a little bit of 4-gate pressure. I like that decision. These will finish up a little bit later than I think he would like them to. Warp gate finish research will finish a little bit earlier. Not the most perfected timing out of perfect. Oh, gotta love the puns.
But he was way late on his cybercore. That's one thing that we didn't get to mention earlier, that he was literally like 20 seconds behind on his cybercore timing.
I wonder if there's a reasoning for that, or maybe he just got distracted by something. I mean, it just happened from time to time. Now, Stalker has been doing a little bit of scouting around, doing a lot of pressure onto those Marines. Now going to push up with his shields, going to see if he can scout anything, but sees that all there is bunker and a few more Marines. Really worried, though. Maybe he has smelled out the fact that DD... Oh, yeah, okay, he did see that command center go down, so he's well aware that his opponent has gone for a more macro-based play. Right. And there goes in the factory. So this is actually a really smart decision out of DDE to go for this 3rd command center, because he's going to be able to power out SCVs, get up that economy, do a huge push around the 13-minute mark, I'm going to say, maybe even a little bit sooner, depending on when combat shield finishes up.
Right.
And medevacs start to come out. Medevacs should be out by the 10-minute mark. Combat shield should be done about the 11-minute mark. So maybe even a 12-minute push at a DDE, and that could do some serious damage, because it looks like Perfect taking a really quick 3rd Nexus of his own. And Knack, I think we have a macro game on our hands.
I agree, and he's going to go for a small push here. Not going to be game-ending. I feel like DDE should be in great position to defend this. He's got 2 bunkers there. I mean, my goodness, these guys are not going to fall, especially if he gets some repair out on them. And he's got plenty of units here to defense this, if you will.
Oh yeah, seamless defensive space. And here he goes, already engaging the Stalkers aggressively. I like that decision. You never know as a Protoss player whether or not those Marauders have the concussive shells, so you have to be very, very, very tentative about engaging them because you can lose units that you don't normally expect to lose if those Marauders have that concussive shell. They do not in this situation. Will not be surprised if DDE queued that up right behind that stim. Fourth barracks going down as well as medevacs on the way, so they will be out at that 10-minute mark just where they need to be. But Perfect has a lot of sentries with a lot of energy built up into him, plenty for Guardian Shields and a good amount of force fields. If he's able to zone out those bunkers and DDE, using that factory so well, putting it in there, pulling SCVs already, knows that a big push is coming, getting ready to repair as soon as he possibly can. And SCVs, they will be all for forfeit. Going to lose a bunch of them to the sentries. Decent range, and he got at least 6 or 7 SCVs, 8 in total actually. So I think that right there is guaranteed damage. Perfect should maybe just turn around, go home. Knows that he's pulled off a lot of workers and just that aggression, only for the cost of maybe a zealot and I think a stalker went down, and just force field energy from the sentries.
Right, and look at this DDE getting forceful here. He's not afraid to go ahead and send out a drop. So medevac headed on the way. We'll check in on that guy here in just a moment. And Perfect still poking at the front. I'd rather see him go poke at the third. I feel like at this point, he's, like you say, Windy, he's done enough damage here. No sense in risking his army here. You can see that DDE has built up his defenses. He can't break it right now. He might as well wait for his Colossus to come out before he goes for another push. And you can see that first Colossus coming out on the field right now. So great play here from Perfect. We do see the Twilight Council going down as well, so my guess is we're going to start to transition into another DPS unit, like, say, probably High Templar at this point. And because, you know, it's so easy for Terran to counter these Colossus when they've already got their starport out. And here comes that drop that we were talking about.
Yeah, so doing a good amount of damage. Colossi will come over there, but doesn't have range, so has to engage pretty close to the Marines. Actually, the same range as those Marines, so has to be careful. Good decision from DDE to circumnavigate the structures of Perfect, using that against him, actually killing off the Zealot as it warps in, gets off a few shots with that Colossus. Now, double forges have to start for DDE. Now, this scout, this drop isn't doing a ton of damage, although it is getting quite a few drone kills right there, but he's getting a lot of scouting information. And
look at
meanwhile, the third.
Yeah. We've got great force fields gone down here. Perfect holding this off in style. DDE losing a little bit here, but it did buy him some extra time at the drop in the main, which did finally get cleaned up as well. But it looks like Perfect's got to be careful here. You can see DDE pushing forward with a lot. Look at the stims, stimming those guys way before they got into battle, just so you could get them in position, and that's game, Windy.
Wow, and that's exactly what DDE would do. It's a powering build. He went for that 12-minute push with stim and combat shield. Such a smart decision, and really had to hand it to him. That was a really well-played series put out by aggression.
Yeah. Nicely done. That is going to put Perfect into the losers bracket. Congrats to DDE, staying up on top. We'll be catching some more games here in just a few moments, so don't alt tab, always alt StarCraft. Catch you guys then.